It's 10 GMT, that's midday in Gaza, where Israeli forces have intensified their attacks in the northern, central and southern parts of the besieged Strip. Video has emerged showing at least 100 Palestinian men stripped and made to kneel on a street in northern Gaza. They had been taking refuge at 3 UN-run schools in Beit Lahia with their families. The Israeli army took them to an undisclosed location. The Jabalia refugee camp has been targeted again in Israel's latest strikes. A building housing displaced people was hit, and overnight airstrikes killed at least 5 people in the Nusayrat camp. And funerals have been held for 6 men killed in Israeli raids in the Al-Farah refugee camp in Tubas, that's in the occupied West Bank. The army also stormed Ramallah, Hebron and Bethlehem, leading to confrontations. Since Israel began its war on Gaza, 272 Palestinians have been killed in raids in the West Bank. Hani Mahmoud is joining us live now from Rafah in southern Gaza. And Hani, hundreds of people killed overnight and so far on Friday morning, and continuing Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip.
Yes, Elizabeth, the strikes continue, and the misery and the tragedies that they're creating continue to make Palestinian living in the Gaza Strip more difficult. Just within the past few minutes, I spoke with a civil defense crew member who was evacuating people from Khan Younis, from the vicinity of the hospital, Nasser Hospital, all the way to Rafah. It has become increasingly dangerous for people. But as an eyewitness, this civil defense crew described to us the moment when a group of people, women, children, and men, were queuing in line to get water. That's from an area that's very close, about 5 minutes away from Nasser Hospital. They were targeted by multiple tank shells as they were queuing to get some water. He described the scene as very bloody and shockingly graphic, as children were thrown at the side of the streets, and where people, blood was everywhere. The area where they were getting water from was completely destroyed. So people at the very basic needs, where they are getting their basic needs, are being targeted as well. And this is a continuous series of what happened earlier this morning in Rafah and Khan Younis in the northern part of Gaza, where there are reports about at least 350 people have been killed within the past 24 hours, and more than 450 residential homes have been targeted, while the Israeli military described these as targets. But these are residential homes where hundreds of people lived inside of them. They hosted evacuees and displaced people coming from different areas, yet they were destroyed and turned into a pile of rubble. The misery continues, the tragedy continues as people are being displaced. They are putting in a very inhumane conditions, very difficult living conditions, not only for people under bombardment, but also those who evacuated here in the southern part. Just at the vicinity of this area, we're seeing lots of people coming here for a desalination station, carrying gallons and bottles just to get some water here. They talk about lack of food supplies. They talk about lack of drinking water, clean drinking water. They talk about lack of everything and shelter. Some of them describe that they haven't been able to sleep for the past 2 nights as they don't have a place to stay in. All of this, of course, happening under relentless mass bombardment of the Gaza Strip.
Absolutely, Hani. So just to reiterate what you're saying, people killed as they were lining up to get water in just one of the Israeli airstrikes, killed as they were lining up to get water, which we know is very difficult to find in Gaza now. Meanwhile, Hamas is saying that an Israeli captive was killed in Israeli strikes as their army tried to rescue him. What are you hearing about that?
Yes, well, so far the statement was issued by Al-Qassam Brigade describing what seemed to be an operation by Israeli special forces in an undisclosed area. Perhaps there is a reason why the location has not been disclosed for safety or security reason, but the statement continues to describe a group of Israeli special forces came to rescue an Israeli soldier captive inside the Gaza Strip, but their attempts was thwarted, and it has failed, and it did not go as a plan, as there were heavy confrontation and clashes between Al-Qassam militants on the ground, elements on the ground with the Israeli special forces, to the point where the special force resorted to an aerial heavy bombardment just to secure a withdrawal, a safe withdrawal from the area. The one member of the special force was killed, and Al-Qassam elements on the ground were able to secure his weapon, as well as the telecommunication system on his backpack was also taken, and in addition to the captive soldier. And Al-Qassam issued his number, his military ID number was also issued in the statement as a proof that he was killed in the clashes and the airstrikes that were shot by Israeli plane. That's so far what we know about the attempt. There is no further information about the location and where it happened, but the timing is close at dawn time, at early hours of this morning.
Hani, thank you very much for that. For now, that is Hani Mahmoud with the latest. He's live in Rafah in Gaza.